Hello and welcome to this webinar on making and establishing routines. My name is Taylor Shembry Much and I will be guiding you through this video. This webinar is one of a three-part series geared towards post-secondary students with attentional concerns. The other two webinars in this series focus on breaking down large goals and time management. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that the content for this presentation has been adapted, with permission, from a pre-existing intervention group titled More Than Making Lists, which is an adult ADHD intervention group. This group was originally created by a registered psychologist named Dr. Michael Zweers in an effort to combat the lack of services available for adults with ADHD. So I would like to give a big thank you to Dr. Zweers for allowing me to utilize his content and put a post-secondary spin on it. In this video, we are going to discuss what routines are and why they are important, the difference between routines and schedules, how ADHD can interfere with routines, and then we are going to go through specific examples of how to make routines. We will discuss morning and evening routines, and then we're going to discuss a routine for settling into work or getting ready to sit down and focus on school. So, first things first, what is a routine? A routine is a short sequence of activities that you do automatically without thinking. Routines are important because they make your life easier and less stressful. For example, you are less likely to miss a step or action when following a sequenced routine. Routines also allow you to think about other things while you run on autopilot. Autopilot means being able to do something automatically without putting much thought or effort into it. For example, think about learning to tie your shoe. At first it was awkward and you fumbled as you worked your way through the specific set of steps required to tie your shoes. But eventually this routine or sequence of steps became automatic, so you no longer think about it. You just do it. Routines also help you stay organized and efficient because you are less likely to forget or misplace an item when it is part of your routine. For example, you are less likely to forget your wallet when heading to the university if putting your wallet in your bag is part of your morning or your evening routine. To elaborate further, routines are a sequence of activities that you follow in the exact same sequence for short periods of time. It is important to do routines in the same sequence to ensure that you do not miss a step and then forget it. Think of tying your shoe. If you miss a step or do one out of sequence, you will end up with a shoe that doesn't stay tied. On average, routines can take between 5 to 30 minutes, but some can be longer. Examples of routines can include a morning or an evening routine, an exercise routine, a cleaning routine. They can even include things such as a leaving the house routine or an arriving to school or work routine. So now that we know what routines are, let's discuss what they are not. Routines are not schedules or to-do lists. Schedules are timelines for activities over the course of a day, a week, or month. For example, you have a specific class on specific days at specific times, or you have to be at work on specific days throughout the week. To-do lists, on the other hand, are a list of activities that you need to accomplish. For example, you need to read chapter 2 for class tomorrow, or maybe you need to complete your online quiz. You can, however, plan when you will do your to-do list items by adding them to your schedule. For example, you can plan to read chapter 2 on Monday after class. While everyone utilizes routines to some extent, people with ADHD or other attentional-based concerns often have more difficulty creating and following routines. This can occur for a number of reasons, but some examples can include not being able to curb the impulse to jump around in the routine sequence. For example, you might be inclined to jump from step 2 to step 7 in your routine sequence instead of moving on to step 3. This can then result in steps being forgotten or missed. Another reason folks with ADHD might struggle with routines is because extraneous things can also distract you mid-routine. Examples of distractions can include getting a call or text, remembering you need to switch your laundry over, or getting distracted by someone in your house. Lots of times when this happens, people will forget to go back to the routine, and this results in missteps. A lack of efficient or effective routines can affect sleep. So, if you're not getting things done in a timely fashion throughout the day, you often have to delay sleep to make sure you get those things done. A lack of routines can also make people late. For example, if you forget your phone or wallet at home and you have to go back for it, and then you're late to class or late to work. A lack of routines can also contribute to misplaced or forgotten items, such as forgetting what binder or assignments you need to bring to class with you. This can often happen if you don't have a morning or an evening routine where you pack your bag ahead of time. A lack of routines can also just contribute to lost time, having to go back and redo steps, and it can ultimately make your life more stressful. So, now that we understand the importance of routines, let's discuss how to make and implement them. The first step is to choose a part of your life where a routine would be helpful. Make sure to choose something that fits you and your lifestyle. Next, you want to break the activity into a series of clear steps. You can add visuals or a time frame that you want to complete these tasks in to help you stay on track if you think that will be helpful. Then you want to review the steps mentally. Visualize yourself doing each step in the sequence. Make sure the sequence flows well and meets your specific needs. It might take you a while to choose a good sequence, but just keep adjusting it until it feels right for you. After this, you want to write down and post the steps somewhere where you can see them. It's going to be imperative to check off each of the steps as you complete them. So I highly recommend that you put your steps into a sheet protector, and then you check off each of the steps with a dry erase marker as you go. If you do it this way, you'll be able to wipe off the checks every time you go redo the routine, so you can recheck them next time. This will help you stay on track and make sure that you are not missing a step. It's important to note that this is likely going to feel awkward and cumbersome the first few times you do it. You need to repeatedly practice doing the routine in the same sequence in order for it to start feeling natural. The ultimate goal is for the steps to become automatic so that you don't need the list and so that you can function on autopilot. Okay, so now I'm going to walk you through 3 of my own routines that I use. We will go over my morning and evening routine and my settling into work routine. Remember, your routines do not have to look anything like mine. The point of this video is to help you create a routine that works for you and your specific lifestyle. If you find that your routine is not working for you, then edit and revise it until you have a good sequence and flow. Okay, so here is my morning routine, and this is just an example of what your routine sheet can look like before you slide it into your paper protector. So first things first, in the morning, my alarm goes off at 6:15, and then I snooze. I know that it takes me a while to get out of bed in the morning, and I know that I need that extra time in the morning. If this is you and you're that kind of person, you need to acknowledge it and plan for it. If it takes you half an hour to get out of bed in the morning, then so be it. Just set your alarm half an hour earlier. Next thing I do, I usually shower, wash my face, brush my teeth, right? I then get dressed. This is important to note that I usually set out my clothing the night before so that I'm organized and ready in the morning. If you're a sleepy person in the morning and you are tired and can't function, you might want to consider steps in your evening routine that will make your morning routine easier for you. Then, because I have some dogs, I take them out, I walk them, and I feed them. Once I come back from that, I do my skincare routine, I do my hair and my makeup, Next thing I do is I make my coffee and my smoothie. It's important to note that I usually have my coffee and my smoothie pre-prepped from the day before. So I just literally throw it in my magic bullet, blend it, press my button on my Nespresso, and then I'm out the door. I prefer to eat breakfast and drink my coffee when I'm at work. But if you're the kind of person who needs the time to sit and eat and have a relax or savor your coffee in the morning, then you need to make time for that for you in your routine. The next step that I do is I gather all the things that I'm going to need for work that day. So I get my phone, my keys, my work bag, which I did pre-pack the night before, my lunch bag, which I pre-pack usually when I get home from work, and then I get the coffee and the smoothie that I just made. This gathering step's really important because I know for sure that I haven't forgotten anything that I need to function throughout the day. Then I lock my door and I head out off to the university. My next routine here is the evening routine. So this evening routine's important to me because it helps me settle for the evening and it helps me get to bed. Evening routines are an extremely important component of sleep hygiene. So if you are having a hard time getting to bed on time and being able to fall asleep, a bedtime routine or an evening routine might be extremely helpful for you. When we engage in the same set of sequences right before bed, it helps cue our brain to understanding that it is time to sleep now. This helps our brain release melatonin and makes it easier for us to get to sleep. So, first thing I do when I'm starting up in my evening routine is I let my dogs out. Usually, when they're out doing their business, I will organize my work bag. I'll make sure my keys and my wallets together. I will make sure that I have any items or paperwork or projects that I might need to take with me organized and in my bag. Then I'll let my dogs in. I'll go wash my face, brush my teeth. I do my skincare routine. Then I set out my clothing for the next day. So I pull them all out, figure out what I'm going to wear. So I'm less stressed and less rushed in the morning. This also ensures that I always have clean clothing that are work appropriate to wear. Next thing I do is I start engaging in some activities that invite sleep and create a relaxing environment. So for me, I'll turn on the lamp in my bedroom and turn off the main light so it's not bright. I'm inviting a dimmer, more relaxing environment, and I use a little sleep spray. Because we live in Alberta and it's super dry here, I fill up and I turn on my humidifier so that it's a more relaxed sleep environment. Then I'll usually make myself a cup of caffeine-free tea. Caffeine-free is essential if you are having sleep difficulties. And then to encourage less screen time, I'll usually get into bed, read a book, and drink my tea while I'm in bed. This helps give me a little time away from screens and electronics and blue lights, which can be disruptive for sleep hygiene. So if you're having difficulties getting to sleep, you might want to consider also limiting your screen time in the evening. Once I'm done reading my book and drinking my tea, I usually plug in my phone and then I head to bed. Now, the next routine is a slightly different routine, and this is my settling into work routine. So, lots of times when I have ran that adult ADHD intervention group, I've gotten feedback from clients that they just get to work and they struggle to start work, or they'll get to the university and they don't know what to do to start studying, or even just when they're at home, it's really hard for them to initiate work. So, when I get to work, I do a series of steps that help me kind of slide and ease into my day. So the first thing I do is I ready my workspace. So I'll usually declutter or tidy my work desk. Usually I'll have some post-it notes or a to-do list from the day before. So I organize those things, move any books or articles that I've been reading. The next thing I do is I make sure that I have all of my personal items together. So I gather my tea and coffee, water, lip chap, hand cream. I usually get a snack and a sweater because it's usually cold in my office. The reason it's important to gather your personal items is because these things can distract you. If you go to sit down and do some work and you realize, oh, I'm thirsty, and then you get up and you go get water, but maybe you run into a classmate or a roommate and you start having a conversation. Or if you're sitting down and because we live in Alberta, your hands are really dry and trapped, and you decide, oh, I need to go get cream, but you realize, oh, your cream's not at your workstation. So then you walk off somewhere and you go find the cream, but then you realize there's other things going on. These things can just kind of interrupt your cycle. So you want to make sure you have all the personal items or the things that might potentially distract you ready and available. The next thing I do once that is done is I look at my schedule or my planner and I make my to-do list. I figure out what meetings I have, what clients I'm meeting with, and then I focus in on any projects that I might need to be working on and kind of make a list of what I want to accomplish that day. I then go through and prioritize and schedule the items on my to-do list. I check and respond to any unanswered emails from the day before. And then I launch into the first task. Whatever was prioritized and scheduled on my to-do list as my first item, I start that. You can break it down if needed, right? If the first item is a really large task, like write an essay, you can break it down. There is another video in this webinar series about breaking down large goals, and it specifically refers to how to do that for larger assignments if you need assistance with that. Then, once I've done my first task, I continue moving throughout the task list, items 2, 3, 4, and so forth. You want to update and edit this task list throughout the day. Sometimes your priorities change, sometimes the things you need to be working on change, so make sure to be referring back to it and make sure that you are staying on task. At the end of the day, I'll move any of my unfinished items to the next day's to-do list so that I'm oriented and aware of them first thing in the morning. So that is the example of my settling into work routine. So I will acknowledge that the morning, evening, and settling into work routines that I kind of gave you examples of, I'll acknowledge that those are a little longer than the 30 minutes set out for the routines in the presentation. And I chose specifically to highlight on those routines because they're longer and they can be a little more difficult. But if you are just starting with routines, it might be easier to choose something smaller and more manageable. Okay, so thank you for listening to this webinar. Listed on the last slide here is a link to a survey for your feedback. We would greatly appreciate any feedback about this webinar in particular, or about the video format of this presentation. Counseling and Clinical Services is always looking for new ways to meet student needs, and we value your thoughts and opinions on how to best do that. So thank you again for joining me for this webinar, and we hope you found it helpful.